This is Kurtop with you, and these are 100 shocking facts about space that seem like science fiction. Martian coral. On July 24, 2025, the Curiosity rover sent a photo that made scientists freeze at first, looking at the rock. The shape was all too familiar to us from Earth. It looked like coral, a real fossilized coral, evidence that Mars might once have had an ocean teeming with life. National Aeronautics and Space Administration was quick to explain. No biology, just minerals that took on a bizarre shape due to water and wind erosion. A rock, not an organism. Our brain fills in familiar images where there are none. The official explanation sounds logical, too logical. But how many times have we heard the same thing? A rock just happens to look like a statue. A shadow just happens to look like a tower. A shape just happens to resemble a living creature's pattern. At what point does the number of these coincidences become proof? Maybe it really is nature's play, or maybe we're just not ready to hear the truth yet. The main thing is that Mars was alive, and that's exactly why we're so drawn to it. Because deep down, we're coming back home. The flesh of the fish god. In the cliffs of Bandiagara lives the Dogon people. Once every 60 years, they hold the Sigi festival, and the main ritual is to carry out a huge mask. Nomu, according to legend, Nomu is an amphibious creature that once arrived in a copper egg rumbling like thunder. It fell into a lake and came out of the capsule half human, half fish. Nomu showed people star charts, which indicated that next to the bright Sirius, there is another dark and very heavy star. Astronomers discovered this white dwarf, Sirius B, only in the 19th century, but the Dogon people spoke about it long before telescopes existed, so that his lesson would not be forgotten. According to the myth, Nomu shared his flesh, giving people pieces of his skin as sacred food. That is why the Dogon still call his power Nyamya Nomo, the life inside the fish god. They keep long tablets with a pair of stars in secret shrines. Scientists still can't figure out whether this knowledge is ancient or a later hint from missionaries. But the Dogon themselves are sure that the copper egg really did come and will return one day when the time for the next Sigi arrives. The history of UFOs is always a mix of fear, technology, and myths. Let's keep that in mind and move on. The Keegum Incident. This photo, often called the Keegum Incident, supposedly shows the site of an alleged unidentified flying object crash in the forest, which is rumored to have happened in the Soviet Union in the 1960s. According to popular theories, this incident was strictly classified, and the area around the site was immediately cordoned off by the military. It is said that the object is a metallic disc about 10 meters in diameter with a smooth surface covered with strange symbols resembling hieroglyphs. Local eyewitnesses, who are almost impossible to find now, claimed that not only strange debris was observed at the crash site, but also bodily remains, which were described as humanoid but not human, in the context of the Cold War. Such events were carefully concealed to avoid mass panic or leaks of information about alleged technologies that could provide an advantage in the arms race. Conspiracy theorists claim that the crash technology could have been studied and partially used in subsequent military developments. What makes this story even more mysterious is its coincidence with other alleged unidentified flying object crash cases, such as Roswell in the United States. This has led to the hypothesis that such events are part of a global interaction between governments and extraterrestrial civilizations, where each side tries to uncover the secrets of the visitor's technology. The incident's credibility is still in doubt, but the photos and descriptions still draw attention from those seeking evidence of extraterrestrial presence on Earth. A cosmic owl in the depths of space is looking right at us, two glowing eyes on a black background, and it's not an illusion. James Webb captured the collision of two ring galaxies, an event so rare that the chance of seeing it is less than winning all the lotteries at once. A mass of 320 billion hundreds. In the center, there are two black holes devouring matter, and flashes of new worlds being born. Scientists say it's just a merger, but why do we see an image again? Why does the universe form eyes, symbols, signs? Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe it's a message and a question. Who left it? Metal objects from Gaius, the Lamana cave in Ecuador, have attracted the attention of not only archaeologists but also fans of mysticism and ufology for many years. The story of the discovery of metal objects in these caves is shrouded in mystery and mysticism. According to legends, metal plates were discovered in Lamana, engraved with symbols that resemble modern diagrams, maps, and even technical drawings. These discoveries became the basis for hypotheses about the existence of an unknown civilization in the distant past that possessed highly advanced technologies, or about contacts between ancient people and extraterrestrial beings. Supporters of these theories claim that such complex and detailed symbols could not have been created with primitive tools and must indicate more advanced knowledge. Some researchers even suggest that the plates could have served as star maps or technological instructions left by aliens. However, most scientists are quite skeptical about these findings. There is no convincing evidence that the metal objects from Lamana actually date back to ancient times. Some experts point to possible traces of modern metalworking and the inconsistency of these artifacts with the styles and technologies known in ancient Ecuador. Moreover, there are no reliable datings or context for the discovery of these items, which further undermines their authenticity. Archaeologists believe that these artifacts could have been created in a later period, possibly as part of a hoax or to attract tourists. Thus, despite the fascinating and mysterious story of the metal objects from the LA caves, their origin and significance remain in question. The story of the Lamana caves is an example of how myths and legends can intertwine with reality, creating captivating but often unreliable accounts of our past. Signals from the depths of the galaxy. In 1977, the Vagayev radio telescope picked up a signal that lasted only 72 seconds. The scientist who noticed it wrote one word on the printout: "Wow." And to this day, no one, absolutely no one, has explained where it came from. Today, we are recording hundreds of mysterious bursts, fast radio bursts or FRBs. They last only fractions of a second, but their power exceeds the energy of an entire galaxy. Sometimes they repeat, as if someone on the other end is trying to make contact. Scientists call these anomalous natural phenomena, but the truth is, we don't know their source. And if it's not nature, then who exactly is knocking on our door from across billions of light years? Cerro under the wheel, the Curiosity rover rolls along the bottom of an old riverbed in the Geddes Valles Canyon. The rocks are just rocks, nothing special. One of the boulders cracks under the wheel of the nearly 1,000-kilogram machine, and inside, a pure yellow glow flashes. This isn't dust or salt, but elemental sulfur crystals, never before found on Mars. Sulfur was previously only known as sulfates, formed by contact with water. Pure sulfur forms only under rare, almost home-like conditions, as if everything unnecessary was removed from the rock. For science, this is a double gift. First, sulfur is an important part of the amino acid chain. Without it, there is no protein on Earth. Second, the very fact of its existence breaks previous models of Martian geology. Now, the area where such rocks are found becomes a priority point. We need to drill, observe, and build new climate scenarios. Venus is a planet that breathes. If Mars is called our potential second home, then Venus is called hell. Everything there is against life. Heat close to 500 degrees pressure, like at a depth of a kilometer in the ocean, and clouds of sulfuric acid. But in 2020, the world was shocked by the news that phosphine was discovered in Venus's atmosphere. On Earth, it appears in two cases, in the laboratory and as a byproduct of living organisms. Back in the 1970s, Soviet probes transmitted mysterious images showing objects that looked like rocks, which changed their positions. Scientists were quick to blame everything on equipment defects, but after the discovery of phosphine, many remembered these photos. And the question sounds different now. What if there is life on Venus? Not the kind we're used to, but a different kind that has learned to survive in acidic clouds and use poison like air. If there is life where it shouldn't exist, then our Earth is not a unique miracle at all. We are not an exception. We are just one of the forms that happen to survive on its own planet. The four-eyed figurine. This mysterious figurine, known as the four-eyed, was found in what is now modern-day Serbia. The artifact is estimated to be over 7,000 years old, making it one of the oldest discoveries connected to the pre-literate culture of the Balkans. The figurine depicts a humanoid with 4 eyes, or possibly with elements resembling a mask. There is a hypothesis that these 4 eyes are actually part of a mask or a headdress, and the figurine itself might have depicted not a real being, but a mythical or divine creature that was revered in that society. There is even a bold suggestion that it might be something resembling a spacesuit, hinting at contact with something extraterrestrial. Although, of course, this remains in the realm of fantasy. Little is known about the purpose of the figurine. It may have been used in rituals or served as a symbol of a protector or guardian. This artifact raises more questions than answers and continues to spark debates among archaeologists and mystery enthusiasts. The 4-eyed is one of those rare artifacts that not only reveal fragments of the past to us, but also ignite our imagination. Padre, we have a mystery in the Amazon jungle. Carlos Crespi Croce, an Italian missionary who dedicated most of his life to serving in Ecuador, became one of the most mysterious figures of the 20th century, thanks to his unusual collection of artifacts. While with the Shuar tribes in Ecuador's jungles, he acquired numerous ancient items that, according to some researchers, could be evidence of the existence of an ancient, highly developed civilization, and possibly even contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Crespi's collection included strange metal plates with engraved symbols resembling ancient scripts, figurines depicting beings with unusual features, and objects that many described as technologically sophisticated. The metal reliefs were especially intriguing, depicting beings with elongated skulls, stars, and scenes reminiscent of space travel. Interestingly, there were no known civilizations in this region that could have produced such sophisticated artifacts. Rumors about the collection spread after some visitors, including researchers, claimed to have seen evidence of extraterrestrial influence in it. Some of the artifacts, according to witnesses, were made from metals that could not be identified. Crespi, however, was not seeking fame. He claimed that he received these items from local tribes in exchange for assistance and food. The connection of the collection to extraterrestrial civilizations becomes even more interesting when considering the mystery of the tunnels beneath Ecuador, which are the subject of legends. The tunnels, known as the TIOS system, are said to contain a library of metal books. Some theorists suggest that these tunnels were a base for an ancient race, possibly of extraterrestrial origin. The Crespi collection may have been part of these treasures. Unfortunately, after Padre Crespi's death in 1982, the collection was destroyed by fire or stolen, and its fate remains unclear. And what do you think? Could a missionary have become the keeper of traces of an ancient cosmic civilization hidden in the jungles of the Amazon? Mars is our second home. It seems that soon we really will reach Mars. SPACEX is already building rockets for flights. National Aeronautics and Space Administration is testing life support systems, and China is preparing for its own missions. The news is full of ambitious plans. The first people will land on the Red Planet in the coming decades. Colonies, domes, resource extraction, greenhouses. It all sounds like the beginning of a new era, but Mars also has its dark sides. Radiation will kill a person in just a few months. The atmosphere is almost entirely made up of carbon dioxide, and sandstorms can last for weeks. To survive there, humanity will have to do more than just build bases. They'll have to completely reinvent the very idea of life. This isn't moving to a new Earth. It's existing on a hostile planet. And yet the main question is different. What if we won't be the first ones there? The images from the Mars rovers keep sparking debates over and over again. Strange rock formations, objects that look like ruins, statues, or mechanisms. Scientists call this pareidolia, a property of our brain that makes us see familiar shapes. But if even some of these discoveries are real, then the history of Mars might seem much richer. And maybe when we get there, we won't be building a new home. We'll just be returning to an old one. A giant flame in the sky over South Florida. On February 9, 2021, a South Florida resident was driving home from work when he suddenly noticed a flash of light that made him stop. Recording what was happening on his mobile phone, Stewart witnessed an unusual phenomenon. At one point, a large white trail began to unfold across the sky, growing bigger and bigger. This didn't shock the worker, but rather amazed him, as the phenomenon resembled a giant flame engulfing the night sky of Florida. As is known, this state has been popular among UFOs since 1998. More than 7,000 sightings have been recorded in South Florida, and some of them still defy logical explanation. As for this situation, the lighting is very similar to the trail left after Elon Musk's rocket launches in 2017. After the start of the space mission, similar glowing contrails remained in the sky, which leads to an obvious conclusion. Despite the mysterious pattern in the middle of the night sky, it was probably not aliens, but a test of a hypersonic missile that left a bizarre trail, frightening the residents of South Florida. Too much evidence. Fall 2024. The Pentagon releases a new report on unidentified phenomena. The table lists 757 incidents in just 1 year. More than half were recorded by military pilots. Strange spheres on radar, dark cubes in a transparent shell, objects that move against the wind and suddenly shoot upward. Some cases are explained as usual by satellite debris, drones, optics, but about a third fall into the column with no data for identification. That means neither the speed nor the trajectories can be understood, as the instruments act like they're not observing a physical object. The Ministry of Defense claims there are no signs of extraterrestrial activity, but that's the same statement they've made for 70 years. The problem remains. Air Force fleets regularly see something. Cameras and thermal imagers record all of it, but there's no explanation. Pilots say at first you think it's a glitch, but then you see a spot on the radar making a 90-degree turn at the speed of a passenger jet. Such reports were once kept in safes, but now they're published openly with changed names, leading to odd arithmetic. The more precise the sensors become, the more often they catch things we don't have a name for. It seems the sky is silent only when we're not looking too closely. Once again, it's the same recipe: fear, technology, myth. We see it both under the pyramid and on the Pentagon's radar. The Mars archives say too much about Mars, but there's one strange coincidence. Almost all ancient peoples mention the red star in their legends as a place where gods lived or where they came from. The Sumerians associated it with the god of war, Indian epics with heavenly chariots, and the Egyptians even called it the place of wanderers. Modern researchers add fuel to the fire. Back in the 70s, there were rumors reaching Earth about secret footage from orbit, where ruins of cities could supposedly be seen. Officially, these photos were never published, and the ones available today raise new questions. Mars looks like a huge library, its pages filled with billions of years of history. We only see the cover. UFOs in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics at the end of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Its existence and after its collapse became a frequent topic for discussion. Residents regularly reported strange objects in the sky, special programs were shown on television, and urban myths circulated among people. Some unidentified flying object sightings were connected to secret missile tests that the general public didn't know about. In the 1970s and 1980s, stories about unidentified flying object S spread throughout the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. There were legends about an unidentified flying object crash in Yakutia in the 1970s, an unidentified flying object explosion on the Kola Peninsula in 1981, and its destruction by a nuclear device in Kazakhstan in 1983. Another story tells of mushroom pickers who supposedly photographed the interior of a flying saucer, and then their traces disappeared. There are even photographs that supposedly prove an unidentified flying object crash in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, but upon closer inspection, they raise doubts. Soviet UFOs were more a manifestation of mass self-suggestion rather than evidence of extraterrestrial civilizations. There were also cases in the United States when UFOs were caught on video, including footage taken by the military. For example, in July 2019, an unidentified object was spotted near the ship Amaka. The Pentagon suggests that UFOs may have extraterrestrial origins. Even astronauts on the International Space Station have observed strange objects, although often these turned out to be satellites. In the United States, there is laser equipment capable of creating plasma images, which are sometimes mistaken for UFOs. But even taking all these explanations into account, some cases still remain a mystery. DNA that doesn't match. We're used to thinking that the human genetic code has been studied inside and out, but in reality, there are still mysteries in our DNA that no one can answer. Scientists call them unexplained insertions, fragments that don't match the evolutionary line. They don't resemble primate DNA, known viral traces, or random mutations. It's as if these pieces of code came from somewhere outside. There is a hypothesis that some of these sequences could have entered us through ancient contacts, with viruses or even with extraterrestrial organisms. It sounds fantastic, but in recent years the idea of panspermia has been openly discussed in scientific journals. Life could have been brought to Earth by meteorites or comets, and if that's the case, then it's possible that part of our genetic code is truly foreign. Some researchers go even further. They claim that there are structures in the human genome that are too orderly to be a coincidence, as if someone left a mark, a genetic watermark. Naturally, official science does not support such claims, but the very idea that there could be an alien trace encoded in us turns our understanding of humanity upside down. And then we have to ask the question, who are we really? The result of random evolution, or carriers of a message left by someone who lived long before us? The photo changed history. The Nebra sky disk, created 3,600 years ago, still remains one of the most mysterious archaeological discoveries. Included in the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization Memory of the World Register, in 2013, this artifact impresses with its design and complex creation technology. Recent studies conducted in Germany have shown that the disk was made using hot forging in 10 stages, with each stage involving heating the metal to 700 degrees and processing it to relieve stress. This data was obtained using modern methods such as X-ray spectroscopy and microstructural analysis. Attempts to reproduce the technology have shown that the ancient original methods surpassed modern processing techniques. The Nebra sky disk is not only a unique artifact, but also evidence of the advanced metallurgical knowledge of that time. Aliens inside the Earth. When we talk about extraterrestrial life, we look to the sky. We wait for signals from Mars, Venus, Jupiter's moons, or distant galaxies. But there is a much more disturbing theory. We should not be looking up, but down, right beneath our feet. At depths of hundreds of kilometers beneath the Earth's crust, there are zones that humans have never seen. There are no direct observations there, only indirect data from seismology and magnetic anomalies. Scientists have recorded strange bursts of heat that cannot be explained by magma movement. And in some places, mysterious sources of radiation are detected where they shouldn't be. And then, there are the myths. Ancient legends spoke of underground gods, of beings that lived in the depths of the earth and would occasionally come to the surface. In the 20th century, this idea was revived. The Hollow Earth hypothesis, secret Third Reich expeditions to Antarctica, stories about entrances to underground worlds at the North and South Poles. Science considers this a wild fantasy, but why then do many geophysical anomalies still remain unexplained? Modern ufologists claim that some UFOs do not come from outer space at all. They emerge from the oceans, from underground, from cracks and faults, as if their real base is not in distant stars, but right here on our planet. If that's true, it's chilling to think we look for neighbors among the stars, while our real neighbors have always lived beneath us. And perhaps it is they who decide how much we are allowed to know about the universe. The friendship between the inhabitants of ancient Egypt and aliens, the topic of the connection between ancient Egypt and UFOs, is a subject of interest for many researchers and enthusiasts of the paranormal. Many facts remain speculation, but there are also details that defy logical explanation. In some temples and pyramids, you can find drawings that resemble modern depictions of UFOs. The most well-known example is the image on the walls of the Temple of Ramses II in Abu Simbel. On one of the walls, researchers discovered an image of a flying saucer with a rounded shape and strange aerodynamic features. Among other confirmations, there are numerous papyrus records dedicated to UFOs. One of them translates as, "and a fiery circle appeared in the sky. It had no head, but a terrible stench came from its mouth. Its body was huge, and it was voiceless." It's a bit scary, isn't it? Similar records also belong to a chronicler who lived 3,500 years ago. He claimed that the sky was covered with fiery discs, but the pharaoh did not get scared and did not let the warriors run away. after which the flying objects disappeared in an instant. Concepts such as winged shields and fiery discs are repeatedly found in ancient Egyptian written religious sources. Iron was hardly mined in ancient Egypt and was a rare metal, but the writings often mention iron thrones, scepters, and clothing intended for the pharaoh. The sun god was dressed in metallic clothing and sat on a throne of iron and fire, which also sounds quite strange. Special attention should be paid to the Abydos hieroglyph, discovered in the Memorial Temple Hall of Pharaoh Seti I. Here, ufologists noticed a helicopter, a submarine, a glider, and an airship. For years, the photos of the find were thought to be misidentified, but their authenticity was soon confirmed. Some suggested ancient Egypt's inhabitants could see into the future. Other scientists believed that aliens traveled through time and simply told them about the events of the 20th century. Skeptics categorically reject such ideas, believing that the images are the result of two hieroglyphic inscriptions overlapping after the plaster was damaged. Between them, there is another, no less amazing drawing, where a flying disc drops an aerial bomb, but critics have their own logical explanation here. Alien artifacts on Earth. The history keeps discoveries that do not fit into any chronology. In Turkey, at the temple complex of Göbekli Tepe, there are columns with carvings of animals and abstract symbols. They are about 12,000 years old. Officially at that time, people did not yet know agriculture or architecture, but here we see engineering design and symbolism that have not been fully deciphered. Who built this complex and why was it later buried? As if someone was trying to hide it. In South America, in Sacsayhuaman, the giant stone blocks are fitted together so tightly that you can't even fit a blade between them. Stones weighing hundreds of tons are laid with perfect precision and with polygonal faces. Modern technology can barely replicate such joints. So, 500 years ago, the Incas had something that they themselves called the technology of the gods. On the other side of the world, in Baalbek, there is a stone known as the Southern Megalith, and it weighs over 1,000 tons. No one has yet explained how ancient builders could have moved it, but the fact remains that this block was worked on, and it was clearly intended to be used in construction. The only question is by whose hands. Similar discoveries include the Ural metal spirals, the megalithic platforms of Tiwanaku, and the perfectly drilled holes in the stones of Egypt, which give the impression of being made by high-precision machinery. Every culture has artifacts that seem to have been invented out of their time. Scientists explain this by primitive technologies, coincidence, and the play of nature, but then why do such coincidences repeat all over the planet, in different eras and among different peoples? The theory that these are traces of aliens is convenient, not because it's sensational, but because too many things start to fit into one picture. And if these really are artifacts left by someone else, then their purpose could have been simple: to show that we are not the first, and that everything we build today is just a faint echo of what was already here thousands of years ago. The first excavations of the sky. Fear of the military, not scientific curiosity, was the initial reaction. In 1948, the United States Air Force launched Project Sign. The directive was simple: if you see something foreign in the sky, report it immediately. The reports were classified as secret, and civilians were told just one phrase: it was a weather balloon. 1952. Project Sign was renamed to Blue Book. At Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, 12,618 cases were accumulated. Some files were marked as unexplained, others as too sensitive. The public was thrown a bone again. Optical illusion, 1969. The project was officially shut down and stamped, case closed, but only the lid was closed. 2007. A new department is opened deep within the Pentagon: Advanced Aerospace Anomaly Research. The funding is quiet, and the reports are even quieter. 10 years later, senators will bring the tapes to light, and the military will admit it. Yes, for half a century we've been taking the same steps. We saw a strange object, collected the recordings, locked them in a safe. Only instead of shards, it's a box of tapes marked secret. It's something that troubled people even in Sumerian times and still concerns us today. The only difference is that today the money spent on one unidentified object would be enough to feed a small town. Unidentified flying object on the cover of an 18th century book. The discovery of an unidentified flying object image on the cover of Johann Funk's book, published in 1716, sparked widespread debate among ufologists. This image, depicting a classic flying saucer surrounded by bright lightning, is seen by many as confirmation that alien visitors were coming to Earth as far back as 300 years ago. Despite disagreements about whether alien visits actually occurred in the 1700s, the discovery confirms that people of that time were also interested in the idea of extraterrestrial civilizations. As always, people are divided into two types. Some believe in UFOs, while others are skeptical about such assumptions. Ufologists are wondering about the technological development of the aliens. If we assume that they really visited Earth in the 18th century, then how did their technology remain unchanged for 3 centuries? This refers to the shape of the alien ship, dark matter, and dark life. 90% of the universe. We don't see everything we're familiar with. Stars, planets, galaxies. It's only a small part. The rest, scientists call dark matter and dark energy. We know it exists. Its gravity keeps galaxies from breaking apart. Its influence is felt in space, but we don't know what it's made of. The most disturbing thing about this story is that dark matter is invisible to our instruments. It passes through us, through the Earth, through every atom, and we don't feel anything. What if there are worlds inside this invisible framework that we simply don't notice? Some physicists suggest that dark matter might interact with itself, forming complex systems. There could be something like dark biology, life existing in another phase of reality. It's not made of carbon, not made of silicon, but of something that has no form for us at all. Then our familiar world is just a thin layer on the surface of a deeper universe. And it's possible that right now we are surrounded by this invisible life. It moves nearby, passes through walls, cities look at us, and we aren't even able to understand what exactly surrounds us. And in this case, the question sounds harsher than usual. What's scarier, to meet aliens, or to find out that they've been living next to us all along, just in another layer of our reality? The Laladov plate. The Laladov plate is a stone dish that's about 12,000 years old. It depicts a disc that resembles an unidentified flying object and a being that looks very similar to our modern idea of an alien. You can also see a spiral galaxy. According to the scientist David Gaiman, the disc was bought in the city of Mussoorie in northern India and belonged to the strange Zopa people, who used the discs during religious ceremonies. However, he later admitted that he made up the whole story, including creating a sketch of the saucer, which his friend then turned into a black and white painting. Amazing artifacts constantly remind us that there is still so much we don't know about the place where we live. But we know for sure that the mysteries of the Earth will be solved sooner or later. The mystery of the flying stones. India is always shrouded in secrets and mysteries. In any of its corners, you can encounter something amazing and incredible. Many people come here for new experiences, to discover unknown spiritual abilities within themselves. Once you visit this amazing country, it is impossible to forget it. One of the mysteries of India is the levitating stones. In the small village of Shivapur, which is located 200 kilometers from Bombay, there are several boulders near the local temple, each weighing more than 50 kilograms. According to the locals, these stones float in the air. To lift the first heavier stone, 11 men are needed. They must stand around it and say certain words, after which the stone begins to levitate and can be supported with just one finger. The smaller boulder requires 9 men to lift it. There is also a third stone, weighing over 60 kilograms, which can only be lifted by the temple monks. The origin of these stones is mysterious. Some believe they were sent by the gods, while others think they broke off from a nearby cliff. A local resident who takes care of the temple claims that the stones occasionally split, and he replaces them with new ones by breaking them off from the cliff. But even the new stones retain their flying properties. Some scientists suggest that ancient people were able to move objects with the power of their minds, as, for example, during the construction of the Egyptian pyramids. Perhaps the knowledge of levitation was lost, but sometimes it resurfaces in places like Shivapur. Interestingly, in the last century, Edvard Litskalnin, an immigrant from Latvia, used similar methods to build his coral castle in Florida, which only confirms the existence of such knowledge. These unexplained phenomena support the hypothesis of extraterrestrial influence on ancient civilizations, suggesting that some technologies or methods could have been passed on to humanity by representatives of other worlds. The Great Migration. In the legends of many peoples around the world, the same motif is repeated: heavenly ships taking people to other worlds. They spoke of the serpent god Kukulkan, who came from the sky and just as suddenly returned, taking the chosen ones with him. In Asia, there were mentions of chariots that lifted heroes to the sky alive, not in a metaphorical sense, but literally. Even in the biblical tradition, the prophet Elijah ascended in a fiery chariot, and no one saw him again. In such stories, people usually say it's an allegory, but the description is just too straightforward. In Indian epics, the ascension is accompanied by sounds, smoke, and flames, as if it were about a real device. In Chinese legends, the chosen ones were taken onto ships, from which they never returned. For ancient people, this looked like moving to other worlds. For us today, it looks like a selection and evacuation program. There is a theory that these ascensions were not just metaphors in the spiritual world, but direct descriptions of contact, that some people were taken onto ships, possibly for preserving experiments or relocating to other planets. That's why different peoples have this strange feeling that the best, the most special ones disappear, go up into the sky. The Disk of Sabu is one of the most mysterious artifacts of ancient Egypt, found in the tomb of Sabu, a descendant of Pharaoh Ajib. It is at least 5,000 years old, but its true purpose remains a mystery. At first glance, it's a stone disc with 3 curved petals, but the details make you think. The thickness in some places is only 1.5 mm, which indicates incredible precision in its manufacture. Considering the level of technology at that time, many people wonder if it was even possible. Scientists suggest that the disc could have been part of a ritual or a decorative element, but there are also other theories that go beyond the ordinary. Some researchers believe that the Sabu disc could have been a copy of a device left by visitors from the sky, a highly advanced civilization that visited Earth in ancient times. The structure and shape of the artifact resemble modern aerodynamic devices, or even parts of complex mechanisms. The Egyptians might have considered this object sacred. They saw the image but didn't understand it. Some think the Sabu disc may unlock the connection between ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial intelligence. For now, these are just speculations, but the mystical aura surrounding this artifact continues to excite minds and invites us to delve into the mysteries of the past. The silver bowl of Quetzalcoatl. Imagine dawn over Teotihuacan. The top of the Pyramid of the Sun, a priest raises a shining disc, something never seen before. Chronicles would later call it the Bowl of Quetzalcoatl. According to legend, it was in this bowl that the feathered god teacher soared into the sky and became the morning star. There aren't many descriptions, but they all agree the shape is perfectly round. The metal shines so brightly it seems liquid, and along the edges there are no patterns, but smooth windows, like hatches. When the bowl was placed on the altar, its surface reflected the entire city and the sky at the same time. The priest said that through it, Quetzalcoatl looked down. The Spaniards later wrote about a silver dish that radiates heat. They tried to break it up, but the metal wouldn't yield to ordinary tools, as if the alloy was harder than steel. The treasure disappeared. In the confusion of doubts, only miniature clay copies remained, a flat disc with tongues of flame underneath. Archaeologists argue whether it was just a sacred mirror-polished obsidian or truly an unusual alloy. In Teotihuacan murals, spirals of smoke around the bowl may hint at takeoff. Today, researchers search for the bowl in Vatican archives and Mexican conquistador hiding places. If it ever surfaces, it will be possible to test its composition and understand whether it was about religion or the memory of some real flying saucer on which the serpent god set off for the stars. For now, the shiny disc remains the most alluring lost artifact of Mesoamerica. The first battle with the aliens has already taken place. On August 26, 1946, an American scientific expedition set out for the South Pole. It was led by naval officer and explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, who took part in World War I. The expedition involved 13 ships, 33 airplanes, and nearly 5,000 United States Navy soldiers. The group under the admiral's command returned only after 9 months, reporting that they had to engage in battle with remnants of the Third Reich and possibly aliens. Flying objects attacked the members of the expedition and inflicted significant damage on the American group. Byrd stated in his report that he saw an unidentified device capable of moving at incredible speed, almost instantly changing its position. At that time, the admiral's statement, despite his high status, seemed like a fabrication. However, in 2018, a satellite image made it possible to see a contrail left by something moving at incredible speed. The trail stretched across the entire Earth, connecting the South and North Poles, which is about 20,000 kilometers. The maximum duration for the trail to retain its shape is 30 minutes, with most of it starting to dissipate after just 15. Based on the data obtained, it can be said that the object that left the contrail was moving at a speed of at least several thousand kilometers per hour at that altitude, which is 10 times faster than the fastest airplane that existed at that time. If we add water, we are used to thinking that life requires one simple ingredient, water. And then the temptation arises. What if we bring it to places where it doesn't exist? The Moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury. 4 different stories, 4 different endings. On the Moon, there is already water in the form of ice at the poles, hidden in the eternal darkness of craters. Add oceans, and we would see a planet with turbulent tides. But the Moon is too small to hold on to an atmosphere. The water would quickly evaporate into space, leaving only a short-lived sea. The Moon will not become a second home. It will remain a dead desert, only temporarily shining. Mars looks more promising. There are glaciers there, and there was water in ancient times. Filling it with oceans will bring the planet to life, thicken the air, create clouds, and alter the climate. Mars lacks a magnetic field, so the solar wind will slowly erode its atmosphere. Earth may only be a temporary home. In a few millennia, its water could escape into space. Venus tells the other side of this story. Adding water to scorching heat and acid clouds causes it to boil instantly, creating a steam ocean. This intensifies the greenhouse effect and raises the temperature further. It's impossible to flood Venus with water. It would only destroy it. To bring this world to life, you first need to cool it down and break up its dense atmosphere, a task that's almost impossible. Mercury is an extreme case, the closest planet to the Sun, with a scorching surface and icy shadows in its craters. Water won't stay there. During the day it will boil, at night it will freeze, and eventually it will evaporate into space. Mercury is too close to the Sun to sustain life. And then it becomes clear that simply adding water is not the solution. Only Earth turned out to be that unique platform where water can remain and support life. Water is unstable, too hostile, or too scarce. There, water is not a source of life, but a reminder of how delicate the balance on our planet really is. Mystical figurines. These unusual figurines from the ancient Mexican city of Teotihuacan are rare examples of the art and worldview of Aztec culture, discovered in 1933 in the Metepec area by an American anthropologist. The figurines depict men and women with hollow torsos that can be opened, inside of which are smaller figurines or objects. This has sparked much debate about their meaning and purpose. Such figurines are often called hosts because of their unusual contents. The hollow in the chest area is symbolically closed with a door, which hints at hidden knowledge, a secret meaning, or the concept of the inner self. Perhaps these figurines embody the philosophical concept of Noel, who accompanied a person in their spiritual quests and on the path of life. The figurines are thought to symbolize fertility, nurturing, or spiritual growth. Perhaps they personify the social or religious roles of a warrior, ruler, merchant, or woman from the elite strata of Teotihuacan society. The fine detailing, as well as the ability to open and close the figurines, indicates the high level of craftsmanship of their creators. This unique design may have symbolized the interaction between the inner and outer worlds, as well as the desire to reveal hidden truths about human nature and the world. Perhaps the return of Utsurubuni. There is a strange entry in Japanese chronicles from 1803. Fishermen from the village of Haryakihara pulled a round lacquered boat out of the water, about the size of a small room. Inside was a young woman in bright clothing with copper-colored hair an incomprehensible inscription on the side, and a tightly sealed box that she didn't let anyone open. The story was swiftly archived with drawings, and legend says the object and its guest were quietly sent back out to sea. In 2024, the Ibaraki National Museum did not find 7 forgotten engravings made by eyewitnesses in a private collection. In them, the boat doesn't look like a barrel, but like a neat disc with portholes, and the inscriptions along the side resemble a mix of Sanskrit and Arabic. The museum exhibited the engravings beside a replica of the boat, a disc just over 2 meters wide with round windows and a narrow hatch. Scientists argue, some say we are looking at an experimental wooden boiler from the era of Udo, while others insist the well-known Japanese ship from that era has shifted from folklore to scientific debate, and the main question is, could the original have lain on the seabed until today, preserving the secret of the copper box that the girl never opened? The stars that disappeared. In 2019, astronomers published the results of a decade-long project comparing old and new sky catalogs. Thousands of stars that were observed in the mid-20th century were no longer in the same places. They disappeared as if they had been erased. The official explanations were cautious: observational errors, supernovae that were missed, or variable stars with atypical cycles. The problem is that some of these stars couldn't have vanished so quickly. The story of Tabby's star, object Kepler, input, catalog 846852 in the constellation Cygnus, became especially well known. Its brightness would drop by tens of % and then return, as if something huge was blocking the light. This can't be explained by planets or dust clouds. It sends chills down your spine. It sounded like a megastructure, an artificial construction the size of a star system, collecting energy from its star. Scientists call this the Dyson hypothesis, a sphere or a swarm of satellites that could only be built by civilizations at a level far beyond ours. It initially sounded like science fiction, but recurring star disappearances and unusual brightness dips keep reviving this idea. If even some of these cases are real, it means there are civilizations in the universe capable of harnessing the energy of entire stars. These are traces that we are already seeing. Nomali figurines are one of the most mysterious artifacts of the African continent. These are the Nomali figurines found in Sierra Leone in West Africa. These ancient sculptures, carved from stone, depict strange beings with disproportionately large heads, bulging eyes, and other unusual features that are not characteristic of human anatomy. Some of them even depict scenes that can be interpreted as mythological or religious. The unique shapes and features of these figurines have attracted the attention not only of archaeologists but also of proponents of ancient astronaut theories. Some researchers believe that the Nomali figurines may represent images of extraterrestrial beings with whom the ancient inhabitants of the region may have had contact. In their opinion, the strange proportions and features of the figurines may indicate that they were created under the impression of real beings of extraterrestrial origin. Although this theory lacks scientific evidence, it adds an aura of mystery to the Nomali figurines and attracts the attention of ufologists and fans of the mystical. Official science regards the Nomali figurines as religious or ritual objects, and it is believed that these artifacts were most likely used in ancient ceremonies or rituals related to the worship of gods or spirits, as they could have symbolized certain mythological figures. As I have told you before, when archaeologists or historians cannot explain the origin of an artifact, it inevitably becomes an object of religious significance. Interestingly, Nomali figurines are often found deep in the ground, sometimes together with other ancient artifacts, various iron objects or weapons, which makes it more difficult to date them and determine their cultural context. Some findings suggest that these artifacts may have existed in very ancient times, possibly long before the appearance of known civilizations in this region. The second sun is a theory that our sun has a dark twin. Scientists named it Nemesis after the goddess of retribution. This hypothetical star has never shown itself to us directly, but astronomers have noticed a disturbing pattern. Mass extinctions on Earth occur with a frightening regularity, about every 26 million years. And if you trace the dates, it turns out as if an invisible force, once every certain cycle, sends a deadly rain of comets and asteroids toward Earth. According to one theory, it was Nemesis that was responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. Its orbit takes it far beyond the boundaries of the solar system and then brings it back, destabilizing billions of icy bodies in the Oort cloud. Most of them fly off into the void, but some head toward us. And every time this cycle repeats, Earth experiences a catastrophe on a planetary scale. Officially, this is just a hypothesis, but if Nemesis exists, it means we never had just one sun, and all of humanity has lived in a binary star system without even knowing it. And then the question becomes much harsher. If we have a second sun, could it actually be the true master of our fate? The clearest photograph of an unidentified flying object was taken on September 4, 1971, in the northern highlands of Costa Rica. Photographer Sergio Luiso was conducting aerial photography of Lake Cote for the National Geographic Institute. Using a special cartographic camera that took a photograph every 13 seconds, he was doing his job, unaware that one of the shots would become unique. Upon returning to the laboratory, Sergio checked the pictures and noticed a mysterious round metallic object in the right part of one of the photographs. It is noteworthy that the object, which resembled a flying saucer, was not found in either the previous or the subsequent frames. For some time, the National Geographic Institute tried to conceal the discovery, forbidding Sergio and his colleagues from talking about the incident. The metallic flying object, over 18 meters in diameter, was kept under strict secrecy, but in 1979, the photograph appeared in an Argentine newspaper and was analyzed by experts. Soon, Costa Rica declared the photograph as official confirmation of the existence of UFOs. Despite years of study and debates among researchers in this field, no one has been able to say what this object is. Skeptics suggested that the object on the right side of the photograph is some kind of debris or a spot that got onto the film during the photo processing. In 2021, a family friend was able to obtain the original photograph in order to scan it using modern technology. This made it possible to digitize the photo, making it clearer and more detailed. Thanks to this, skeptics saw the saucer-shaped object in higher resolution. The updated photo made it possible to dismiss a number of mundane assumptions and theories, since it was not a smudge or a chip on the camera lens, so it really was something. Share your assumptions in the comments. In space, physics allows for the possibility that space-time can fold into tunnels, wormholes. They connect points in the universe directly, bypassing millions of light years. On paper, this is the Einstein-Rosen theory. In reality, it's still just equations, but there are too many hints suggesting that these corridors might exist. Astronomers occasionally observe strange phenomena, bursts of radiation that appear and disappear in a fraction of a second, and almost simultaneously in different parts of space, as if the signal didn't travel the usual path but jumped across. Officially, such anomalies are called interference or rare processes in pulsars. But what if these are markers of functioning portals? Legends have their own versions. The Sumerians wrote about God's gates, while the Maya described heavenly paths for the Star Brothers' return. Tibetan texts contain descriptions of doors between worlds that open only on certain days. Amazingly, the ancients spoke of the same thing, the possibility of instant travel to places where the usual path is impossible. If you've learned to control such structures, the galaxy stops being boundless. There's no need for thousand-year journeys on giant ships. It's enough to step into the right place and emerge at another star. Then the unidentified flying object phenomenon becomes understandable. They don't have to come from far away, they just arrive. There's only one question. If such portals already exist, then where are their entrances? Maybe they're hidden in black holes? Maybe in the depths of the oceans? Maybe right here on Earth in those very places, forces that have always been considered forbidden, taboo. The Shroud of Turin and its connection to UFOs. This mysterious Christian relic attracts interest not only among religious communities, but also among paranormal researchers and ufologists. This 4-meter-long linen cloth contains the imprint of a human body, presumably crucified, which, according to legend, is associated with Jesus Christ. The relic is kept in the Turin Cathedral and sparks endless debates about its authenticity. From a scientific point of view, radiocarbon analysis indicates a medieval origin, but there are theories linking it to divine or even extraterrestrial intervention. The uniqueness of the image on the shroud is hard to explain. It was not painted with a brush, but looks like an imprint, resembling a photographic negative, which is incredible for the technology of that time. The connection with UFOs and extraterrestrial theories arises from the hypothesis that the shroud could have been the product of highly advanced technology. Ufologists claim that the process of creating this imprint could have been connected to a powerful energy or light pulse, similar to modern laser technologies. Some believe that the resurrection of Jesus, accompanied by a miraculous event, could have been the result of intervention by extraterrestrial civilizations that shared their knowledge with humanity. However, these are nothing more than theories of the Eye of the Sahara. This geological structure was seen by astronauts in 1965, and that's where its name comes from. From the air, it looks like a huge eye surrounded by green circles. It's a dolerite intrusion surrounded by sparse vegetation, which is a rare phenomenon for the desert. Cosmonauts even used it as a landmark, since it's the most noticeable structure in the Sahara. At the center of the formation, there are siliceous breccias, a special type of sedimentary rock. This indicates its ancient origin, which scientists estimate to be millions of years old, with the oldest ring being about 600 million years old. Initially, it was believed to be a meteorite impact site, but this was not confirmed. Then scientists suggested that Galpa Rishat has a geological origin, and new studies show that this structure was formed under the influence of hydrothermal waters. One of the most unique features of the Eye of the Sahara is its ability to change color throughout the day, depending on thermal emission. And although there are still many debates and assumptions about the origin of this geological wonder, most modern scientists believe that it is the result of erosion after the uplift of a section of the Earth's crust. The Cockno Stone, this massive stone located near the city of Clydebank in Scotland, is covered with intricate carved patterns consisting of spirals, circles, and lines, and is still considered one of the most mysterious archaeological finds in Scotland. After conducting numerous analyses, scientists confirmed that the stone is about 5,000 years old. The patterns on the Cockno Stone have attracted attention because of their uniqueness and complexity. Some researchers interpret these symbols as an ancient map of the starry sky, suggesting the stone may have been used for astronomical purposes. In their opinion, the spirals and circles may represent stars, planets, or even the paths of celestial bodies, which could have helped the ancient inhabitants of Scotland track the movement of heavenly objects. The stone could also have been used locally in rituals or ceremonies related to the worship of gods or nature spirits. However, there is still no consensus about what role this artifact played in the lives of ancient people. Supporters of the paleocontact theory suggest that the patterns on the Cockno Stone may be evidence of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. In their opinion, the complex symbolism of the images may indicate interaction with a more advanced culture, possibly of extraterrestrial origin. Ivory figurine. In the Follyfuls Cave in Germany, archaeologists found a fragment of ivory carved with unprecedented precision. This mysterious piece appears to be part of an artifact found 20 years ago. So, is it a large horse's head, or perhaps a bear or a lion? Professor Conard from the University of Tübingen and his team suggest that the figurine was carved about 35,000 years ago. Now it consists of 5 fragments found at different times. The current find, a piece of ivory measuring 4 by 2.5 by 0.5 centimeters, has been identified as the right shoulder and rib cage of the animal. This prompted scientists to search for the remaining parts of the figurine among the many ivory artifacts. And they found another part that can't be directly connected to the rest of the body. Maybe it's part of the left front leg. What do you think? Are there strange notes in the archives from the 19th and 20th centuries? In the burial mounds of North America, skeletons nearly 3 meters tall were found. In the reports, archaeologists talked about jaws and skulls that were too large for human, but almost all such finds disappeared. Some blame the churches, others blame government institutions that erased inconvenient evidence. Myths from different peoples say the same thing. The Sumerians wrote about the Anunnaki, as tall as towers. The Bible mentioned the Nephilim, the sons of God. Women. Native American tribes told stories about battles with giants who came from the sky and fed on human flesh. Scientists explain these legends as fantasies and mistakes. But why does this motif appear among peoples who are not connected to each other? And why is it always associated with the sky and the gods? If giants really existed, then they could have been a different branch of humanity or hybrids of humans and aliens. In that case, the history of our planet is not only the evolution of Homo sapiens, but also the coexistence with those who were much bigger and stronger. The Singing Temple Underground. Imagine descending 3 floors beneath the Maltese ground in Halsaflieni. The corridors were carved out 5,000 years ago, but the real magic is in the oracle room. A whisper there turns into a hum, and a low male voice at around 111 hertz makes the walls vibrate so much that your chest trembles. Scientists tested it. It's the body's natural resonance. After 90 seconds, it feels like the sound comes from inside your bones. In the fall of 2024, Italian acousticians scanned the temple with a laser scanner and found another cavity behind a blocked passage. It also resonates at the same 111 hertz. It turns out that ancient craftsmen deliberately carved out an entire chain of sound chambers. The priest spoke one word, sending vibrations through the hypogum and lightly hypnotizing everyone present. No better technology is needed for the ritual. They haven't cleared the chamber yet, fearing a vault collapse, but plan to insert a thin microphone probe. If anything is found there besides stone, statuettes, vessels, maybe bones, it will become clear that this was not just a crypt, but a laboratory of ancient sound. For now, beneath a quiet tourist street, the oldest speaker on the planet lives, built 5,000 years ago and still working without a single crack. There's only one question. How could people 5,000 years ago calculate the acoustics they needed so precisely? In a cave? Traces of fire under the megaliths. Under many ancient megalithic structures, archaeologists find charred layers, but these are not remnants of campfires. The temperature was too high for ordinary people to have created it. In some places, the stones are melted as if they were exposed to plasma or a powerful energy source. In Pumapunku, Tiwanaku, Bolivia, there are marks on the basalt slabs as if they were cut with a heated tool. In Egypt, melted edges of blocks are observed where there should be neither fire nor volcanism. Scientists explain this as random natural processes, but the temperature clearly exceeded the level of any natural fire. There are too many coincidences, and the energy used was comparable to modern plasma cutting, or even more powerful. Then the megaliths stop being tombs or ritual structures. They become traces of work with technologies that people simply did not have. The unicorn's horn. Let me introduce you to the life of the medieval unicorn. This creature, although mythical, still faced cruel treatment from humanity. People hunted unicorns for their magical horns, which, according to beliefs, possessed unique properties, such as the ability to purify water and remove poison from food. Unicorns were believed to exist according to the testimonies of many ancient scholars, including Aristotle and Ctesias, as well as great minds like Leonardo da Vinci. In the Middle Ages, unicorns symbolized purity and wisdom, and their horns became a symbol of prosperity and could serve as an indicator of poisoned food among the aristocracy. But how can one find a unicorn horn in the world? They answered by using the horns of other animals such as rhinoceroses or walruses. However, the most popular were the tusks of narwhals, animals from the Arctic whose twisted tusks were mistaken for unicorn horns for centuries. Travelers and hunters secretly obtained these tusks and sold them to Europeans as the horns of mythical creatures. Thus, merchants and great rulers like Lorenzo Medici and Queen Elizabeth I paid huge sums for these tusks, considering them symbols of power and protection. The Grand Inquisitor, Tomás de Torquemada, never traveled without a piece of such a horn, believing that it could save his life from heretics. With the development of science and the progress of research methods, Belief in the miraculous properties of unicorn horns faded, and now they remain only as exhibits in museums, a reminder of how legend and reality intertwined in human history. The bas-reliefs of Nukuhiva on the island of Nukuhiva, which is part of the Marquesas Islands archipelago in French Polynesia, amaze archaeologists. Mysterious statues, bas-reliefs, and sculptures depict strange beings resembling gray aliens. Their bodies are human, but their heads are like reptiles, with huge round eyes and low-set mouths. Who created these statues and for what purpose is unknown. The modern natives of the island know nothing about the origin of the sculptures and believe that they depict the ancient god Ono, who, according to their beliefs, created the world. When Europeans discovered the island in the 16th century, it was inhabited by savage gatherers who became notorious for cannibalism. However, the connection between the current inhabitants and those who created the mysterious statues has been lost. Archaeologists suggest that these sculptures are at least 150,000 years old. Some believe that they depict priests in ritual masks, but such masks look too unusual to be just a part of earthly culture. Supporters of the conspiracy theory are convinced that a colony of aliens once lived on Nukuhiva. In their opinion, the statues depict hybrids of humans and aliens, and the sculptures themselves are traces of ancient experiments. Islands that don't exist. The history of cartography is full of mysteries. Old sea maps from the 17th and 18th centuries show islands that don't exist today. Hundreds of sailors swore they saw land when ashore, even described plants and animals. But after decades, these islands disappeared. Modern satellites confirm that there is only empty ocean in the marked places. The most famous example is Sandy Island in the Coral Sea. It was shown on maps for almost 200 years. In 2012, Australian researchers decided to double-check the spot and found nothing. Not a patch of land, not a trace of a reef, just a depth of 1.5 kilometers. How do we explain the hundreds of captains' records? Was it a mass hallucination or a collective mistake? There are dozens of similar cases. The Brabant, Frederick, and Emerald Islands, which existed for centuries and suddenly disappeared. Scientists attribute all of this to measurement errors. But sailors left detailed reports with drawings describing the flora and fauna. Either all global navigation was mistaken for centuries, or we are dealing with a phenomenon for which we simply have no explanation. There are theories that these were not islands, but objects that could rise from the water and then sink back into the depths, possibly volcanic formations, or maybe something else. Some ufologists believe that these could have been bases or ships of giants that disguised themselves as land. Fragment of a granite device. A granite artifact from Japan with mysterious patterns still causes a lot of debate among scientists and researchers. This stone was found near ancient structures, puzzling with its unusual shape and precision of craftsmanship. On its surface, there are numerous indentations and lines that connect into a complex pattern, the meaning of which remains unknown. The official version suggests that the stone could have been part of a decorative element of a palace or temple, but this hypothesis raises doubts considering the precision and symmetry of the patterns. Granite is an extremely hard material, and processing it requires complex tools that were unlikely to be available to ancient craftsmen. The technology for creating such smooth and deep recesses in such a labor-intensive material raises even more questions. The mystery deepens with the assumption that the discovered artifact may be just a fragment of a larger structure. If its original appearance can be restored, it might be possible to uncover its hidden purpose. Some alternative theories link the artifact to ancient technologies that were either lost or introduced by a more advanced civilization, possibly even of extraterrestrial origin. The skillfully crafted elements on the granite could have been part of some mechanism, a device for collecting or concentrating energy. This discovery reminds us of how many mysteries our history holds and opens up space for imagination and new research. The moon and its mysteries. We are used to thinking of the moon as something simple, a nighttime satellite, a beautiful disk in the sky, but the more we study it, the stronger the feeling that something is not right. To begin with, the moon is too large for a satellite. Its diameter is almost a quarter of Earth's. Neither Jupiter nor Saturn nor Neptune has anything like this. It's an anomaly. Moreover, the moon's orbit is almost perfectly circular, Natural bodies don't behave like that. They move in ellipses. Here, it's as if someone adjusted its trajectory further. The impact craters on the moon are huge, but none of them are deeper than 4 kilometers. Even the most colossal collisions didn't break through the crust. Why does it seem like there's an invisible armor beneath the surface? In the 70s, Soviet engineers openly said that the moon behaves as if it is hollow, and confirmation came in a National Aeronautics and Space Administration experiment. When a module was deliberately crashed into the moon, the satellite vibrated, not for a minute or two, but for 2 hours, ringing like a bell, as recorded in reports. But a rock doesn't behave like that. That's how a hollow structure behaves. The oddities don't end there. We only see one side of the moon. Scientists call this tidal locking. But why did this happen only here? Why is it that our satellite is forever turned to us with only one side, and why is the dark side so different? Scarred, devastated, as if it went through an ancient catastrophe. And then there are the flashes. They've been observed for decades, bright lights that appear on the surface, sometimes lasting for a whole minute. National Aeronautics and Space Administration keeps a catalog, but there's no answer. Gas, volcanism, or operating machinery. In 2019, a new discovery was announced. Under the moon's south crater, they found something massive, an object causing gravitational distortions. Scientists cautiously suggested that it might be an asteroid stuck in the core, but it's strange that the moon withstood it without breaking apart. And all this brings to mind the hypothesis of Vassin and Sherbakov. What if the moon is artificial? According to their version, it's not a satellite, but an ancient mechanism with a metallic shell, cavities inside, and possibly equipment. It's science fiction, yes, but the facts stubbornly refuse to fit into a natural picture of life on Saturn's satellite. Now let's move on to space. While the astronauts of the Boeing Starliner, Book Wilmore and Suni Williams, continue to sadly await their return to Earth in February, National Aeronautics and Space Administration is actively preparing for future missions. In 2028, the Dragonfly spacecraft is scheduled to launch to Titan, Saturn's moon, which scientists believe may hold incredible secrets. Dragonfly is expected to reach Titan in 2034. Recent studies have shown that beneath Titan's thick, icy shell, there may be an ocean with warmth, creating conditions for the emergence of life. Moreover, beneath ice up to 10 kilometers thick, there may be an atmosphere, rivers, and seas, likely made of hydrocarbons, such as methane and ethane. Dragonfly will be an important step in exploring extraterrestrial oceans and searching for alien life beyond Earth. Fiery teachers in the iconography of different eras and peoples show a strange coincidence. The figures of gods, prophets, and teachers of humanity are almost always surrounded by the radiance of the Egyptians. Solar discs above the heads, halos in the shape of flames among the Maya, golden circles around the face in Byzantine icon painting canons, and entire auras of fire in India. The official version sounds simple. It's a symbol of divinity, holiness, and inner light. But too many details make you think. On Mesopotamian reliefs, the gods are depicted in garments from which rays seem to emanate. In Peruvian frescoes, the radiance is not smooth, but shown as straight lines, as if from a source of light. And in the text, it's sometimes said directly that they shone so brightly people couldn't look at them. Is this just a description of an aura, or is it actually light from something material? Lamps, spotlights, helmets? In some images, it's noticeable that the rays come not from the head, but from an object that resembles a helmet or a mask. The Sumerian gods have enlarged eyes, as if behind a transparent visor. In Indian descriptions, the gods descend in shining shells where their bodies don't burn from the heat. To the modern ear, this sounds like spacesuits. If you put all these fragments together, the picture becomes different. The fiery teachers could have been real beings who descended to people in protective suits and with sources of light. For ancient people, it was a miracle. For us, it's technology. The oldest doll in Italy. Recently, archaeologists in Italy discovered a clay figurine about 7,000 years old. This treasure was carefully preserved by the Batafrat Cave, where the first agricultural communities on the peninsula lived. This artifact is a real rarity, especially for Italy, isn't it? The figurine is a doll with a rather schematic face, but the most interesting thing is its hairstyle and jewelry, which are made with special attention to detail. Just think about it. 7,000 years ago, people used this cave not only as a source of water or a place to live, hunt, and farm. They performed their mysterious rituals there, and it seems that this little clay doll was one of the main figures in those ceremonies. Unfortunately, we still have little concrete evidence of exactly how these ancient rituals took place, but this figurine is a valuable key to unlocking the mysteries of the past. The tiny mummy in Atacama. 20 years ago, in an abandoned mining town in the Atacama Desert in Chile, the mummified remains of a humanoid only 15 centimeters tall were found. When this skeleton ended up in the hands of a private collector in Spain, it sparked a storm of speculation about its origin and even appeared in a documentary as possible evidence of unexplained life. Scientists from California were able to extract DNA from the mummy's bones and reconstruct the real and tragic story of this creature, which was given the name Ata. It turned out that this was not a visitor from another world, but a girl who apparently was stillborn or died immediately after birth, with horrifying mutations that determined her unusual physique. Despite being only 15 centimeters long, some features of her bones indicated an age of 6 to 8 years. Ata had only 10 pairs of ribs instead of the usual 12. Her head was elongated and cone-shaped. Professor Harry Nolan, who conducted the research, believes that Ata was stillborn or died immediately after birth. Her deformities were so severe that she wouldn't have been able to eat. In her condition, she would have been placed in a neonatal intensive care unit. But such devices simply weren't available in the place where her remains were found. It all started as a story about aliens, but it's actually a story of human tragedy. A woman gave birth to a deformed child who was preserved and sold as a strange artifact. In the end, it turned out to be a human with an amazing genetic story, from which we can learn a lot that will help others. Life in icy oceans. When searching for life, we have always looked at Mars, but perhaps the most promising worlds are even farther away beneath the ice of Europa, Enceladus, and Ganymede. These moons look like silent spheres, but beneath their surfaces hide oceans that are tens of kilometers deep. There is everything there: water, heat from internal sources, and the chemical elements necessary for life on Enceladus. The Cassini spacecraft detected geysers shooting into space, and organic molecules were found in them. On Europa, cracks have been observed from which clouds of steam periodically erupt. If there are raging oceans under the ice, it's an ideal place for life to develop. The beings might resemble Earth's squids or jellyfish, or be entirely different, with shapes and organic matter unlike anything familiar. Scientists cautiously say there's a high chance of habitability, but we understand that if there really is life there, it won't just be another discovery. It will be an encounter with beings that have lived for millions of years in isolation, in another ocean, under a different sky. And then the solar system will stop seeming like it's ours. It will become shared. A bracelet that's 70,000 years old. Scientists believe that this bracelet, which is 65 to 70,000 years old, was created by Denisovans, an ancient species of hominids closely related to, but distinct from, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. If this is confirmed, the date of the bracelet's creation will have to be pushed back by 30,000 years. The bracelet was discovered in Siberia, and it may change our understanding of ancient human development. It is already forcing scientists to reconsider the known levels of technology. For example, the bracelet has a hole that was made using drilling or sawing. The Roswell Disc. The Roswell Disc is a mystical artifact that is rumored to have been found near Roswell, New Mexico, after the famous unidentified flying object incident in 1947. According to some reports, the disc is part of the wreckage of an unidentified flying object. The disc was a round metal plate about 3 meters in diameter, with unusual symbols and markings on its surface that could not be attributed to any known earthly language. The material from which the disc was made turned out to be unidentified and had strange properties. Some sources claimed that the disc was handed over to the military and studied in secret laboratories. Those who had the opportunity to see it spoke about its potential connection to extraterrestrial technology and the possibility of storing information that surpassed all earthly counterparts. Over time, the Roswell disc became a symbol of conspiracy theories and mysteries related to UFOs. Its existence is still disputed and remains a subject of debate among scientists and paranormal researchers. The disk became a legend among unidentified flying object enthusiasts, and many believe that it is kept in secret government archives along with other artifacts that point to extraterrestrial interference in human affairs. There are missions that are not officially discussed. Space is transparent. Every National Aeronautics and Space Administration or European Space Agency mission is announced in advance. Everyone knows the launch dates, routes, and objectives. But in reality, there are gaps in the history of space exploration that no one is in a hurry to explain. There are mentions in the archives of spacecraft that were never presented to the public. They were launched from military test sites without press releases or television broadcasts. Officially, they were communication satellites or atmospheric reconnaissance, but sometimes strange lines appear in the documents, searching for anomalies, recording unidentified sources. In the 1970s, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics supposedly launched spacecraft that were supposed to photograph the dark side of the moon in high resolution, but the results were classified. In the United States, there were talks that separate reconnaissance probes could have been sent to Mars, not to search for water, but to search for objects. Why are all these missions so carefully concealed? If they found nothing, they could have shown the emptiness, but if the data was classified, it means there was something there that changes the rules of the game, something that's more convenient to keep in boxes marked classified for now. And the question arises, maybe we already know much more about life in the universe than we think. It's just that this information is carefully controlled. Shiva Linga in the city of Sirsi in India is a unique pilgrimage site, Sahasralinga. Here, among natural beauty, there are stone images of Shiva Linga that amaze with their appearance, especially during the Mahashivaratri festival. At this time, the water level in the river drops, making the sculptures visible and attracting thousands of pilgrims and tourists who want to see and worship the sacred lingams. Shiva Lingam is a symbol of Shiva, one of the main deities in Hinduism representing both the creator and the destroyer. Interestingly, there are not only religious but also scientific debates surrounding the Shiva Lingam. Some proponents of the ancient astronaut theory claim that the Shiva Lingam could represent a powerful technological device, similar in function to a modern nuclear reactor. Based on the shape and properties of the lingam, they suggest that ancient people might have used advanced technologies. On the other hand, modern scientists may interpret the Shiva Lingam as a symbol of atomic energy, which also has the potential for both great benefit and destruction. This analogy highlights the dual nature of Shiva, who in the Hindu tradition is both a creator and a destroyer at the same time. Silicon-based beings. We are all used to thinking that life is built on carbon. It is carbon that has become the foundation for DNA molecules, proteins, and all living things on Earth. But what if this is just one of the possibilities? Scientists have long been discussing the idea of silicon-based life. Silicon is capable of forming strong chains and complex structures, but these structures would be different, more rigid, crystalline, and possibly not even resembling organic matter. Some hypothesize that in extreme heat and pressure, where carbon-based life fails, silicon-based life could instead flourish. Imagine a world where living beings are translucent formations resembling stones, which grow, feed on minerals, and transmit information through vibrations. We might mistake such an organism for a regular stone. It's especially troubling that probe data sometimes shows anomalies that are hard to fit into carbon-based models. Scientists don't talk about living crystals seriously, but such theories do appear in classified reports. And if silicon-based life exists, it means one thing. We could have been walking among it for millions of years, not realizing that these stones aren't stones at all. Out-of-place artifacts. These are discoveries that don't fit at all into the traditional understanding of our history. They are found in Earth areas and layers where they don't belong. The most amazing thing is that based on their age and level of complexity, such objects simply couldn't have been created in times when, as it's believed, no advanced technologies existed. Official science often declares such finds to be fakes or simply ignores them, but there are more and more of them, and it's no longer possible to turn a blind eye to them. Let's take, for example, the mysterious bygone metal pipes discovered in China. These pipes go deep into the earth and stretch to the shores of lakes, and their age is estimated at 150,000 years. The composition of the pipes, which includes iron and other minerals, along with their ancient age, baffles researchers. Some believe that this is the result of natural processes, but others think that the pipes could be traces of a highly developed civilization or even left by extraterrestrials. Nevertheless, the forged nail, which is over 350 million years old, remains a mystery. This nail was found in a layer of rock dating back to the Paleozoic era, a time when neither humans nor the art of metalworking existed yet. How could such a nail end up in ancient rock layers? Some scientists suggest tectonic processes, while others talk about the involvement of previously unknown civilizations. In Provence, fossilized tools were found that could have been made by humans or even from ancient trees. If this is true, such discoveries indicate the existence of intelligent beings who had woodworking skills long before the first known civilizations appeared. Other discoveries are even stranger. In Antarctica, the Altanin antenna was discovered, which at first looked like a high-tech object, but later turned out to be just a sea sponge. Nevertheless, the very fact of such a misconception shows how wrong we can be when faced with the inexplicable. The traces of the Pulaski River are another mystery. Giant humanoid footprints were found next to the dinosaur tracks. This discovery calls into question our understanding of the chronology of life on Earth, because according to the theory of evolution, dinosaurs and humans never coexisted. There are other examples of anomalies, such as on Mount Ararat, which is associated with Noah's Ark, the clay figurine from Nampa, whose age is unclear, or the wolf's egg iron, which is considered a remnant of a prehistoric era. We should not forget about the Tucson artifacts, a collection of 31 lead objects found in 1924 near Picture Rocks, Arizona. These artifacts include crosses, swords, and other items engraved with inscriptions in Latin and Hebrew, as well as images resembling medieval symbols. It was initially assumed that they were created by ancient Mediterranean civilizations that supposedly crossed the Atlantic in the 1st century. However, later, many scholars considered them a hoax created in modern times to mislead researchers. In any case, each of these artifacts calls our understanding of the past into question and opens the door to new theories and research. Perhaps our history is much more amazing and mysterious than we could have imagined. Tombs are not for people. Archaeologists are used to interpreting everything within familiar frameworks. If there is a stone box, then it must be a sarcophagus. But in Egypt and Peru, there are burials that do not fit the human scale. In Saqqara, there are granite boxes weighing 60 to 70 tons each. They are crafted with jeweler's precision, but inside they are so huge that a single human body would look tiny in them, and it would be uncomfortable for several people. Why such sizes? On the other side of the world, tiny stone sarcophagi have been found in the Andes, and their proportions are so small that an adult body simply wouldn't fit in them. The official version is that these are children's burials or symbolic rituals, but then why were they crafted with the same skill as royal tombs? Another mystery is the emptiness. Many of these sarcophagi contain no traces of burial, no bones, no funerary items, as if they were never used as tombs. And then a theory emerges that these are not tombs, but capsules, containers in which those who were not human were once stored or transported. Too big, too small, different. Maybe the answer lies here as to why the myths of almost all peoples speak of gods who came from the sky. Stones, bones, myths, and stars all come together in one mosaic. We are just a part of a much bigger story, and the question remains the same, not whether they exist, but when will they return again? Thank you for watching this video until the end. Goodbye, everyone.